What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journos Comics and Pop Culture, and today we are looking at Marvel villains and if their first appearances have held value since these characters made their MCU debut. All right, before we get into the books, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so and check out all the awesome links below, including how you can become a Patreon member of the channel via patreon.com for only $3.99 a month, where you get all kind of extra perks, including automatic entry into my Patreon only contest. You can also support the channel by becoming a YouTube member for only $1.99 a month. You'll get extra perks there as well, and you get extra entries in all my YouTube contests. And of course, check out our comic book canon YouTube link below. If you haven't checked us out over there, you're missing out. We have our live shows every Friday night. Please go give us a sub there. And without anything else being said, let's get into these books. All right, what is the first one on the list today? All right, we got Avengers number 55, the first appearance of Ultron. Let me tell you, this book is an anomaly for Marvel keys. I'm telling you, let's look at these numbers. I'm going to break this down. All right, Avengers 55, first appearance of Ultron. Ultron made his debut in the MCU in 2015 in Avengers Age of Ultron. So what we're looking at here, where it says pre-AOU, that's pre-Age of Ultron. All right, when we're looking at a CGC 9.4 fair market value, that was me taking whatever grade had the highest amount on the census. I was pretty surprised to see 9.4s of this Silver Age book have so many. But we're looking at 9.4 fair market values. In 2014, this is pre-release of Avengers Age of Ultron. Look at this. Fair market value in a 9.4 was sitting at about $837. Now look at this. Post Age of Ultron, in 2015, it dipped to $702. That's a trend of a negative 16%. That's a 16% loss after the character debuted. Now, before I give you my thoughts, let's look at the rest of these numbers. I also computed a 2020 pre-COVID 9.4 fair market value, because a lot of people are looking at the market right now and saying, oh, well, you know, it's COVID, it's all this extra money and stimulus money being put into the hobby, all that. So this is why we're gauging 2020 pre-COVID fair market value. It dipped even more. It was sitting at about $408. All right, that's a downward trend from after the release of the film in 2015 of 42% loss. And that's a downward trend from the pre-release in 2014 of 51% loss. Right? Now look at this. Current 9.4 fair market value. So that's sitting at $572. It is up from pre-COVID, and it's cut the loss from 2015 back down to a 19% loss, and it's cut the loss from 2014 back down to a negative 32%. So what does that say? Like I said, this is a bit of an anomaly, because we really see Marvel keys increasing in value no matter what. And I'm not even talking about MCU spec, especially Silver Age keys. If you have a Silver Age book that has a big character's first appearance, or even a minor's character's first appearance, or an origin, or storyline, or something like that, right? We usually see constant trends of the books increasing in value over time, especially for those long term, right? But this book has constantly dipped since the release of Age of Ultron. Now, I can't tell you why, but I'm going to put my theories out there. Age of Ultron is looked at the worst Avengers film out of all 4.5. I'm going to say 4.5 because I call Captain America Civil War a junior Avengers film, right? Out of 4.5 films, this was like the least received, all right? I personally, the more I watched it, the more I started to enjoy it more, especially going back and looking at all the films. And, you know, there was mixed feelings of Ultron's portrayal in this film. And look, it's absolutely possible that the character's portrayal and short-lived presence really affected this book. he was a one and done. Ultron was basically a one and done. That's been probably the one main complaint with Marvel films, is these villains being one and dones, right? So I don't think that did anything for this book to help it. And yes, it absolutely could have been a negative variable that continued to allow collectors to just not really look at this book. Now, we do see it on an upward trend right now. And of course, that's kind of the trend for the market in general in this COVID era. So we'll see what happens. Look, if the MCU brings Ultron back in any way, I absolutely believe that that's going to help bring this book up even higher. Like I said, this is an anomaly, but it can happen. This goes to show you that even Marvel Comics aren't foolproof when it comes to the market, short term, long term, whatever. I mean, we're 7 years into these numbers right now, so we'll see. Will I think a long term increase will come to this book? I do, but it might just take longer than usual for your standard Silver Age Marvel books. So, all right, we're gonna move on. Next book on the list is Fantastic Four number 53, the first appearance of Ulysses Claw. Now, before we look at these numbers, I have to let everyone know, this is the second appearance of Black Panther and Black Panther's origin. So there's a lot going for this book. All right. It's not just the first appearance of Ulysses Claw, but we're going to kind of take those multiple variables and intrinsic key denominators, right? And really kind of look at these numbers and see how either or could be affecting this book. So Ulysses Claw, here's another character that made their first appearance in Age of Ultron. All right. So we're going to look at pre and post Age of Ultron release again. So we're going to look at this book in 2014 before the character showed up in the MCU. Fair market value in a CGC 7.5 was sitting at about $91. $91. All right, but look at this. Post Age of Ultron, 7.5 fair market value, $158. That's an upward trend of 74%. So a nice 74% increase. And now remember, keep in mind, at this point in time, there was no Black Panther in the MCU. All right. Now let's look at these numbers. Now 2020 pre-COVID, that fair market value dropped slightly, just slightly. So when we look at where it was at post Age of Ultron, it's a 6% loss. Not much at all, obviously, but it's still 63% above where it was at pre Age of Ultron. All right. Now let's look at current CGC 7.5 fair market value, sitting at $240. That's an upward trend of 52% from 2015 and an upward trend of 164% since 2014. All right. So, look, ebb and flow here, ebb and flow. And I talk about threshold all the time, and you will see this. I just did my, 5 Avengers first appearances since they made their debut in the MCU. I did that, a little over a week ago, right? And I did the same platform where we looked at the numbers in the same way. And you're going to see the majority of these books, even for the ones that might have a slight dip here and there, you're going to see the threshold trend. And I'm going to tell you what that is. Once again, the threshold trend is, I always say this, when a character makes their debut in the MCU or maybe miles in a video game or in an animated movie or something like this, and we see that bump in value and that big shoot up in value, even if there's a cool off stage, I always say this: you're never going to get that book for what you could get it for before they made their appearance in the MCU or in the movie or in the game or something like that. And that's usually the case. So let's look at this. All right. Even though 2020 pre-COVID, there was a dip from where it was at after the Age of Ultron hype, it was still up 63% from where it was at before this character made their debut. That's the threshold. You will never be able to get this book for around $91 again in that 7.5 once that character made their debut. So keep an eye out for that. Now, I did say this book has Black Panther's second appearance in an origin story. So you have to keep in mind that those elements of this book could have absolutely helped this book continue to increase over the long term, over the 7 years, right? But will we ever know? We can't tell for sure. But again, we can see that immediately after Ulysses Claw made their appearance, this book did get a big, healthy bump. So I'm really looking forward to this book continuing to increase over time and being a very solid long-term investment. All right, moving on. The next book on the list is Jungle Action number 6, first appearance of Killmonger. We all know what Michael B. Jordan did in the 2018 Black Panther film with Killmonger. But let's just look at these numbers. So we're basing these on the Black Panther release, obviously. So we're going to look at pre-Black Panther and a 9.2. All right, fair market value, CGC 9.2, 2017, $209. Post-Black Panther, 2018, $364. Yes, that's a 74% increase. So, you know, obviously, I'm not surprised. This book, I was watching it too when it was going on. Michael B. Jordan killed it. The movie killed it. I can't speak for everyone, but right, we know how well it did at the box office and how it stands today. But let's look at pre-COVID, 2020 pre-COVID. A little bit of a cool off, 322. So from, you know, that bump after the debut, we saw a 12% loss here. So again, let's look at the variables. Killmonger, although a very well received villain, probably one of the best received villains in the MCU at that point. Spoilers, if you haven't seen the film, 3 years out, he died. He died in the film. Michael B. Jordan is like supposedly never coming back. Killmonger is dead. So another one and done. And I know that there was a lot of, man, you know, it's like, I want to see Michael Jordan keep playing this character. He did such a good job. So that could have affected it. But we know we know in the comic books, some characters don't always stay dead. There's been rumor of Michael B. Jordan coming back, reprising his role. That's just rumors at this point. But, you know, I could see that as being a reason why this book could cool off a little bit. But look, what I just talked about thresholds, right? Look at where it was at in 2020. It was still 54% above where it was at pre-Black Panther. So what is my saying that I always say? You will never be able to get it for what you were getting it for before this character made their debut in the MCU. Threshold. All right, let's look at that current 9.2 fair market value, $473. That's now back up 30% from 2018, and it's up 126% from pre-MCU debut of Killmonger. That's solid. I think this book is going to continue to increase. And hey, look, if Michael B. Jordan does appear in the MCU again in some capacity, I really believe this book is going to spike again. We're going to see another jump to where it could almost double in value if we get any type of actual confirmation that that's going to happen. Because I'm telling you, those fans that were disappointed in the one and done are going to be going crazy. And we know that there's a lot of big money investors looking at how these collectors are popping off on things once these announcements are going on right now in the age of COVID. So I definitely look for this book to keep increasing in value, regardless if we get Killmonger in the MCU again or not. All right, everyone, we're going to look at one more book for this video, and that's Fantastic Four number 65, the first appearance of Ronin, the Accuser. Man, this book is a bit of a positive surprise for me. So looking at these numbers, Ronin made his MCU debut in 2014 in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. We know what Guardians of the Galaxy did. That was, you know, and I was one of them. When that film was announced, I was like, why? Out of all the characters you could do, Guardians of the Galaxy. But to this day, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is still top of the MCU list for me. Probably top 5. I love that film so much. I love what James Gunn did for the characters. And, you know, it goes to show what Marvel's done. And look, let's look at what that film did for this character, Ronin. Pre-Guardians of the Galaxy in an 8.5 CGC fair market value in 2013, $62. Post-Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, $167. That is an increase of 169%. Way to go, Ronin. Man, like I said, Guardians doing its thing. All right, let's look at 2020 pre-COVID. Another bump. $230 fair market value. So that's another 38% increase from 2014's bump. And it's a total increase from 2013 pre-MCU debut of 271%. Wow. All right, let's look at current 8.5 CGC fair market value. Another huge increase. $342. That's an upward trend from 2014, from the release of Guardians. It's over doubled. That's 105%. And look at the trend of pre-MCU debut. 452%. Wow. 452%. Can you guys believe that? That is awesome. That is awesome. Again, it's like I did not expect this book to have that much of an increase, but I think you got to take into all the variables. Fantastic Four, has a lot of first appearances in their 12-cent run, right? It's a highly sought after collection, even for your standard Silver Age and Bronze Age run fillers. They do tend to command a little bit of a higher price. You get a movie in the MCU that did extremely well when I don't think anybody really expected it to. And you have these characters that were brought to life in such an amazing way. I mean, we could talk about Rocket Raccoon and what they did to him and all the characters. I mean, Star-Lord was basically, brought from the ashes and created anew. So I'm very happy to see what this book's done. I was happy to see Ronin again and the Captain Marvel film. Who knows if we'll see any kind of multiverse Ronin or even maybe some backstory in the past Ronin again. We don't know, but again, very, very ecstatic to see this book doing what it's doing. Again, I was a bit surprised. So there it is. Those are my books for today, everyone. Again, just another way to really look at what the MCU is helping do to the comic book market. And I'll always say this. We can't rely on these numbers specifically because of the character showing up in the MCU. It's merely one variable. Are there correlations? Yes. But if you guys have studied statistical analysis, you have to understand that there's usually not just one correlated variable that's pushing these books up. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. These books would most likely have upward trends even without MCU involvement. All right, that's the nature of the hobby. So for those individuals that just say, oh, it's people that don't even read the books and they just watch the movies and they see a character in the movies and it's inflated prices and market manipulation and all this. It's not the case. And I use DC as a prime example. Look at DC key Silver Age and Bronze Age books that don't, the DCEU was in shambles, right? There's hardly any movie speculation around any of these characters. But we see these books slowly increasing over time for that long term. It's because the comic book market as a whole is healthy right now. And it's that simple. But it's always fun to look at how the variable of the MCU and these characters showing up plays a role. So, all right. Before I go, though, I got to give a big, big shout out to all of my wonderful patrons who continue to support me each and every month. We're coming to a month's close, so I'm very interested in seeing how I'm going to invest this month's earning back into the channel. I always say this, every dollar that I get from my Patreon supporters goes back into this channel one way or another. So I got to give a big shout out to my patrons, a couple new ones this month. So big shout out to Larry, Serge, Michelle, Jacob, Tyler, Keith, Jeremy, Sean, Michael, Comic Spunk, Jeff, Tricky Clicky, Philly Born, Alvin, Frankie's Aquatics, Fletch Comics, Joshua, Pedro, Peter, Jason, Joe, Larissa, Sagi, Dan, Bishner, Simon R. Again, thank you all so much. And I also want to give a big shout out to my Journos Comics YouTube members. I just launched that some earlier this month. And I got a few members that are supporting me there, and I appreciate you all as well. And again, you guys are going to get, all of you, including my patrons, are going to get extra entries into my 5K subscriber contest, which I will be announcing the winner to in about 2 weeks' time. So please keep a lookout for that. Again, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments of what you thought of the books today. Thank you all so much for watching. Be well, and until next time.